Today we're going to be talking about stage 1 of phase 1, the milk prepper phase. So the first thing that we're going to talk about is your breast pump. So the thing about a breast pump, which I've heard mixed reviews, is you definitely want to make sure you get a breast pump. A lot of people now are getting the hands-free breast pump, which is perfectly fine. I've actually had a mom recently that was able to get her milk in no problem, and she had a hands-free breast pump. I had heard some mixed things prior, and I was encouraging people to get mostly like a Spectra or Medela or something of that sort, but I have found that it does work pretty well on the suction. So you do want to make sure you get your breast pump. Now, it is a federal law in the United States that you can get a free breast pump with every pregnancy. So I've had 3 kids and I got a new breast pump every single time. And of course, I had my first son back in 2015, so they didn't have the hands-free pumps at that time. And by the time I had my daughter, they were still not covered insurance. So I never got one. But I do encourage you to get your breast pump before your baby delivers. Now, here's the number reason why. No one ever thinks they're gonna have a NICU baby. Okay, I mean, I didn't have a NICU baby and I was very fortunate. My son was pretty close. He was 37 in 1 week. But I wish I had a breast pump sooner. And I see this a lot of times at the hospital with moms, is that they're not expecting to have a NICU baby, something happens and they have to deliver early, and then they don't have a pump to go home with. So I really encourage you to call your insurance company, ask them how you get your free breast pump. Also through Medicaid and CHIP, which is here in Texas, you can get a free breast pump as well, but I know they don't let you get it until your baby's delivered. Okay, now here's my tip if that happens. If your insurance company says that they are not going to give you your free breast pump until your baby delivers, which by the way is complete BS because people need it before then. But anyways, what you want to do is look on Facebook Marketplace, or even just get a cheap one there's some at Walmart now, Amazon, or if you get Facebook Marketplace, just order the pump parts and the tubing, and then all you need is the pump. Like, that's going to be completely fine, just to have on hand just in case you need it, and then still order your free one through your insurance company. So that's what I would really encourage you. And now I'm not talking about any hand pumps. I'm talking about a double electric breast pump. My favorite is the Spectra. I did use it for all 3 kids. And no, sorry, scratch that. I used it for my last 2. The first one, I had the Medela. And then by the time I had my second, I couldn't get a letdown from that machine. I don't know what it was. It's something, the settings were just so simplistic. I couldn't play with them and I couldn't get a letdown. So the Spectra S2 is a closed breastfeeding system, which means all the condensation from your milk doesn't go back through the tubing to your pump. So I do love that one. Medela does have a new closed system one. I can't remember the names off the top of my head, but the LV, the Willow, the Liberty Freeme is really good. So any pump that you're gonna get that's just electric to do the job, I would highly encourage you to get your breast pump before your baby arrives. It's very crucial. Again, like I said, no one wants a NICU baby. No one thinks they're gonna have one. There's some other reasons that we're gonna talk about later why you need a breast pump. So it's not just a NICU baby. So I encourage everyone to get a breast pump before your baby arrives. I would say probably in the beginning of the 3rd trimester, just get it. Get it, have it on hand, and put it right away in your hospital bag. Okay, then the second thing with your breast pump is you want to make sure you get the correct flange sizing. Now I'm going to create another video attached to this because I want to go in depth about flange sizing, because this is crucial for how you are going to pump efficiently and how it can really affect your supply. So that's going to be a separate video, so just look below and I'm gonna create that video as well. Okay, so next thing is packing your hospital bag. A lot of hospitals give lanolin nipple cream, and I am not a big fan of lanolin. It's actually made from sheep's wool. It's like the oil from their sheepskin, and nobody really does that in other countries. They don't put that on. So I would encourage you to use like your own colostrum, hand express it, rub it on your nipple and let it air dry. Or my other favorite is the Earth Mama Angel. I think it's Earth Mama Angel. It's like in a little pink and white box, and I really encourage that one. It is oil based. However, so you want to make sure you wear like nipple pads or something with your shirts because it will leave oil stains, but I love that one. And that one is super super good. It has really great ingredients. Anything like organic, kind of vegan, you don't want fragrances in it unless it's like a natural fragrance. Anything like that is gonna go back into baby, and so you wanna make sure it's safe. So check out Amazon, do some research, but that one is my favorite. I use that. And if you're breastfeeding well, which is the goal, you might not need nipple cream. So you can have as a backup if you want to, but it's not like 100% necessity. All right, and then if you don't have a hands-free breast pump, you also want to put in your hospital bag. Oh, here, sorry, let's write on here, hospital bag. Okay, so hospital bag. Okay, so you want to put your breast pump. Number one, you want to put that right in there right away. Number two, if you don't have a hands-free breast pump, you do want to get one of those hands-free pumping bras. For example, if you do need to pump, the last thing you want to do is be sitting there like holding it while you're tired. They are super cheap and they're so worth it, especially if you plan to pump like in the future. You're gonna need it, so you might as well just get it now. It's super simple. I think it's like 3 Wishes. They sell them at Target or Amazon now, or the Lancino pink one, and basically it goes straight across, and in the back it has Velcro, so you can really adjust it to your size. So it's kind of like a one size fits all, and it really fits a lot of body types. And you want to make sure it's nice and super tight and snug, so then you can attach your pump parts, because if your flange piece isn't directly on your breast in a full circle, then it's not going to make contact and it's not going to suction correctly. So any of those regular bras that has like a clip down and everything, those ones usually aren't great because they don't hold the pump. I know there is a trick to do it, and it doesn't, depending on your breast shape and size, it doesn't always work. So I would encourage you to get one of those hands-free pumping bras as well. They are so worth the $20 that you will spend on them. All right, and then definitely the hospital does not provide the best food and nutrition when you're there for breastfeeding. I mean, they do have a lot of snacks, but a lot of them are processed. I'm going to include another video if you've seen my free resource quick start guide. Is I talk a lot about fruits and vegetables and everything. Not really fruits and vegetables, fruit smoothies and fresh juices. So you can pack some simple fruits like a bunch of bananas or a bag of apples or some dried fruit, or I mean anything like that that you can kind of snack on that's a little healthier than like some Doritos, or they're going to give you cake or spaghetti. You know, any of those things, you do want to try and pack some natural fruit. The main thing we're focusing on with babies when they're newborn and they're just born is their sugars. Their sugars is vital for their brain development. So you want to be eating natural glucose, natural sugars in the food that you're eating. And if you're eating a bunch of processed food, yes, it's sugar, but it's not the right sugar that your baby needs. So that's something that you definitely want to focus on. Okay. All right. And then the third thing that we're going to talk about in this part, okay, is hospital checks. Sorry, my marker is not doing the best. Hospital checks. Okay. So now what do I mean by this? Every hospital is different. Okay. So I've worked at a couple of different hospitals, and some are very encouraging and very supportive of breastfeeding, and then there's others that are the opposite. Like they just want to shove formula in your face and do everything. So the main thing that I want you to ask about your hospital that you plan to deliver at is check to see if they have a lactation nurse available every day. So an IBCLC is an international board certified lactation consultant. Sometimes they have lactation counselors or just a lactation nurse that's in the process of getting her IBCLC. So you definitely want to check with them. I would really encourage you to find somewhere if they have lactation at least every day, or make sure you would be seeing somebody at some point, because I know a lot of hospitals, because it's budget with the hospital, lactation is like the last thing on their list to have unless they have high standards at the hospital. So that's one thing. All L&D nurses and postpartum nurses are trained to help you with breastfeeding, but say for example you have a nurse that really doesn't care too much and is not going to be super helpful and just gonna give you bottles of formula, then they're doing you a disservice, and you want to really make sure you set up, because if you are delivering in a hospital that doesn't have a lot of lactation help, then we can prepare better and create a better breastfeeding plan that will, empower you and support you in case you don't have the help that you're going to need in those first couple days that you're there. I mean, for vaginal, you're only there for 2 days. Sometimes we're even sending vaginal deliveries home within 24 hours, which is so fast. I mean, they want to get home. They have other children, especially during COVID. They wanted to get home, which is fine, but your milk's not even in yet, and there's only so much you can teach in 24 hours. Like, it's a lot. So you definitely want to make sure they have a lactation nurse that's there at least every day or every other day, so you can be able to see somebody at some point. Okay, the other thing you want to ask is if they have a donor milk program. Okay, so you want to check to see if they have an IBCLC, and then next, if they have a donor milk program. Okay, so now what do I mean by this? Okay, so what I mean by a donor milk program is there are facilities around the country that do pasteurized human donor milk. So you have a bunch of moms that have an oversupply, and they donate some of their breast milk, and then it goes to the facility and they pasteurize it. They make sure they have no hepatitis, no STDs, anything like that would be in the breast milk. They make sure that these people are completely clean. Okay, and then they pasteurize it, and then we get it shipped to the hospital, and we can use it for babies. Now here's the thing. A lot of hospitals will only allow you to use donor milk if you have a preterm infant. So my hospital, for example, only lets babies less than 35 weeks use it. So if you have a baby that's 35 weeks in one day, they don't technically qualify, but they're still a preterm infant. So this is where you really want to ask your hospital if they do donor breast milk for well babies. Well babies means babies out on the floor that are with the parents, like they're full term, but say you have twins and your milk's not in yet and they need some supplementation, you would use donor milk and as a bridge while you're pumping to use as extra instead of using formula. This way you'll be keeping the gut microbiome the same by not introducing any formula. It's not your breast milk, so it's not as beneficial, but you're still going to be putting baby to breast and pumping your own milk and everything. So you just want to make sure if you have that, if you need a little extra, that way you have like a fallback if that you can give them breast milk and continue exclusively breastfeeding in the hospital. So just ask them, what is the qualifications for using breast milk, donor breast milk? Okay, if it's like for pretermers only, then we're gonna kind of change your breastfeeding plan in preparation, and we're gonna talk about that in the next video. Okay, and then another thing I want you to ask them is, what is their blood sugar protocol? Okay, so this is another thing that a lot of parents aren't expecting when they have a baby, and it kind of takes them by surprise, and it can really put a wrench in your plans to breastfeed. So blood sugars, I kind of said this a little bit earlier, your blood sugars are super important with your newborn. Okay, each hospital has a different protocol. I've worked at 3 different hospitals, and each one was different. All of them kind of create their own policy based off the guidelines of the American Academy of Pediatrics. Okay, so some are very lenient and some are super strict, which all babies are different. So all babies are gonna be like kind of different ranges that are normalized, but if you have a hospital that has a very strict policy that it has to be this set number at this set time and they fail, then things can change in your breastfeeding plan. So you definitely want to ask them what is their blood sugar protocol for a NICU baby and a well baby. So you can, if you want to just skip NICU, it's not super important. You can always ask when you're there, but definitely for a well baby. So for example, at the hospital that I work at, in the first 4 hours of life, it needs to be above 25, okay? But when I was in another hospital, anytime after birth, it has to be above 45. Okay, now that's a huge difference. Here's the thing. If you've been in labor for hours, your baby, you are losing, and plus, first of all, they don't let you eat in the hospital when you're laboring, which is the worst thing known to man because labor is hard work. And then you don't have calories, which calories gives you sugar and energy. So then you're tanked too. So think about your baby. If you've had a long labor, their sugars are going to be lower too because they've been using extra energy to try and get down and being squeezed every 2 to 5 minutes consistently for that long of a time. So their blood sugar is going to be lower. So actually the protocol that we have, I actually do like a lot because it gives that baby some time to kind of, in the first 4 hours, kind of breastfeed and come back and do better. I'm going to do another whole video on baby blood sugars, and because it can be a little complicated, but I just want to set you up for success and just kind of give you a little rundown. But another hospital I worked at, it had to be greater than 45 right after birth, like immediately after they were born. And some babies just can't make that. So then you go into that mom guilt phase where automatically you start thinking that it's your fault and you did something wrong where you didn't. Both you and baby expended a lot of energy during labor, and that's normal. That's normal. So I don't want you to freak out. I just want to prepare you. So that's why this is called the milk prepper phase, because there are so many things that you don't think will happen that you just want to prep and know about and just be educated on. So if you do come across that challenge, you know how to work through it and still keep the same goals. Okay, so definitely ask them their blood sugar protocol. They might be a little confused, but just ask them kind of what their numbers are, and then reach back out to me, and we'll discuss that if that's something. If you do end up having gestational diabetes during your pregnancy, it's a guarantee that your baby is going to be on blood sugars. So I would 100% recommend, if you have gestational diabetes, to ask what their blood sugar protocol is. And we'll make a breastfeeding plan specifically for you with gestational diabetes. I'll have that because that is totally different, because automatically your baby's going to be on blood sugars. So we definitely want to do that. Also, for example, if you know your baby is going to be preterm, like they're trying to keep you pregnant for a certain amount of time, your baby will also be on blood sugars. So some food to think, some food for thought for that. So definitely ask them about their blood sugar protocol. Definitely the other thing I want you to do for hospital is stay with your baby. Okay. I've worked as a nurse for 11 years. There's, just like any job and career that you have, there's always good ones and there's bad ones, people. And I just don't trust anybody with my baby, because I have seen nurses do things without consenting the parents and giving pacifier when you don't want to, when you're trying to breastfeed, and doing giving some sweeties, which is some stuff to help raise their sugar and calm them down. And I always like to ask parents and encourage them to go with me so I can educate them at the same time. So you definitely want to make sure you stay with your baby at all times, if possible, when they're bringing them to go do assessments or anything like that. All right, so we're going to kind of just go through again. So this is phase 1, part 1, about what to expect at the hospital. And oh, I forgot one. Okay, last one. But I don't want you to bring this to the hospital. Whoops. Boppy. Okay, your breastfeeding pillow. You can get it, but it's definitely not needed at the hospital. Leave it home. We use so many more pillows. It's a lot easier because you're in those hospital beds where it's not flat like your bed at home. So you can sit up a lot more and everything, but then it's still always semi-reclined. And if you use a boppy, it ends up being too low in front of you, and your breasts are up here. So you want the baby to be upwards. So I tend to use a lot more pillows, and it doesn't get close enough for you to really hold and support your newborn, because they're very small. So you want them, well, most babies, there are some bigger ones, but they want to be up and close to you. When you have the boppy and you're kind of reclined back a little bit in those beds, it's too far down in front of you, and it's just kind of useless. So I would leave your boppy or your breastfed pillow at home, but I do encourage you to get one because there are some really great things that you can do once you are home. Just I would definitely leave it. So I think that's it for part 1. So number 1, make sure you get your breast pump, either a hands-free one or the one that you plug into the wall. Whichever one you do, just make sure you have a breast pump before your baby arrives. I would say starting like the 3rd trimester. Number 2, packing your hospital bag. Definitely your pump, hands-free pumping bra if you don't have a hands-free pump, and some type of nipple cream if needed. Definitely have that on hand as well. Hospital checks, make sure they have an IBCLC that can see you at least daily. Ask them about the donor milk program, their blood sugar protocol. Always stay with your baby. Make sure at all times. And boppy, just leave it home. There's no reason to bring that with you. All right, so I think that is it for stage 1 of the milk prepper phase. And I'm gonna be moving